part of her job that was, particularly her knowledge and relationship with these world leaders, which they all found
and now more representatives
resource
of foreign governments.
Worth remarking too on the Abbey itself as it begins to fill with the congregation. The view we were
part
just
of her job that was,
contemplating there was that
her
of the
knowledge and relationship with these world leaders, which they all found.
And now
her
more
late
representatives. Very
foreign
many of the congregation who have been arriving early
Worth
this morning are
remarking
seated
too
in the
on
nave.
the
The Abbey
with the
itself
Queen
as it
of
begins to fill. Many of the congregation who have been arriving early this morning are seated in the nave. The Abbey itself choir give the sermon during the funeral service, which will be led by the Dean of Westminster, the very Reverend David Boyle. And what a day it is indeed for them to prepare for not only the service for the funeral here at the Abbey, but too many of the congregation who have been arriving early this morning are seated in the nave. The Abbey itself give the sermon during the funeral service, which will be led by the Dean of Westminster, the very Reverend David Boyle. Foreign royals, what a day it is. Royal family arriving early this morning are seated in the nave. The Abbey itself give the sermon during the funeral service,
the retired Lord Great Chamberlain, the Marquis of Cholmondeley, whose job ceased immediately that the Queen died. He was present at the opening of Parliament, carrying the Imperial State Crown, but he has been replaced for this reign by Lord Carrington, son of Lord Carrington. And we also saw one or two ladies in waiting immediately arriving.
This, as we can see unmistakably, the President of the United States.
There is, of course, much rank.
You can see unmistakably the President of the
Much
United
high
States,
presence.
critical ally
But
of
this
ours,
is
somebody
an equalising.
who spoke
There is, of course,
incredibly fondly about the Queen in the last week.
much high presence.
Critical ally of
This
ours,
is
somebody
an equalising. Now
who spoke
approaching the gate
incredibly fondly
are
about
the ladies of the
Queen in
Queen's
last
house.
week. We were lucky to have her, he said.
Among them,
critical ally of ours, somebody
Lady
many
Susan,
of you today
now
will say amen to
close to
that.
approaching the gate, godmother of the ladies of the Queen to Prince
We were
William.
lucky to have her, he said.
And during the pandemic was the only
Lady
person
Susan today
who
will
was
say
part of what
amen
was
to
called
that.
HMS bubble. Godmother of the ladies of the Queen. She attended during the pandemic of Prince Philip, along with who was part of what was called HMS bubble. Godmother of the ladies of the Queen. She attended during the pandemic of Prince Philip, along with who was part of what was called HMS bubble. She attended during the pandemic of Prince Philip.
Very delicate operation for all of those who are given the duty for navigating these arrivals in these coming minutes. For all of those who sit swear
President
next
Macron
to
confronts
all
the
parts
parties
of the critical
as he put it,
planning
partage to
coming
share
today.
the pain of the people of Britain.
Who sit swear
President Queen's fondness for France is evident in the fact that she spoke French.
President Biden, of
She
course, one of 14 US presidents who sit swear during Her late Majesty's reign. Very many notable moments, of course, in recent memory when former presidents have visited here and been made welcome at Windsor Castle. Not least, of course, most recently, President Biden and his wife Jill visited here themselves, who both recounted wonderful tales of taking tea with the Queen and generosity with themselves, who both recounted and sandwiches provided for them. They smiled and reflected on that with great warmth in these
Now,
most recent
President
days.
of the United States, Joseph
Very
Biden,
Reverend
and his wife Jill
provided
Biden.
for them. They smiled and reflected Dean of Westminster in these most recent days. The President,
The Queen last met Jill Biden in June last year when she invited them for afternoon tea at Windsor.
The President,
The Queen last met Jill Biden in June last year when she invited them for afternoon tea.
Chris, maybe this is as we watch the
Queen
American
first met a
president
serving US president
chatting
Henry
by the
S.
great
Truman
West Door. Chris,
as
perhaps this
Princess
is a moment to bring you back in.
1951.
Chris, maybe this and remind us just how many US presidents the Queen knew and how many governments really relied on her very subtle diplomatic skills and making sure that relationship remained consistently that of our closest ally.
Yes, Tom, I've been struck in recent days just by how many prime ministers, but also how many world leaders have spoken to us about their gratitude for the counsel that they got from the Queen, including Joe Biden himself,
which will include holders of the Victoria
a young
Cross,
age,
George
but someone
Cross, and the Orders of Chivalry.
who spoke about the great warmth and affection and counsel he got from the Queen that she built up over so many years in that role, and it was a real moment to see him yesterday inside Westminster Hall, standing next to the coffin, paying his respects to the Queen. And he's arriving at Westminster Abbey almost a full hour before the coffin of the Queen will be brought here on that state gun carriage at Westminster Abbey. Almost a
Leading the procession, Captain David Lilly met in Iraq in 2003.
It's a good moment of reflection, I think, for the President.
Captain David Lilly
And he'll join the many former Prime Ministers who will also be
7 Victoria Cross and
in
10
Westminster
George Cross
Abbey,
have been
and who
invited to
themselves
service,
had that
including one from New Zealand,
weekly audience with the Queen, who will also be
7 Victoria, Johnson and
in
Harry
Westminster
George,
Abbey.
decorated for his
I
brave
should remark
during the Iraq War.
Weekly audience with the
glimpse there of the
Queen.
President, Bill, to bring you in there. Part of the procession, a very important part of the procession, those of holders of the Victoria Cross and the President.
That's right. In fact, in the centre of the screen there, you can see Sergeant Johnson Bahari, Victoria Cross, and before him were members who have been awarded the George Cross, which is the civilian version. And also in the main procession, the 3 organisations that have received the George Cross will be represented: Malta, Royal Safari, and the NHS, most recently the 3 organisations.
We're reminded, of course, that this is a state funeral, so you will also have seen representatives of the senior grades of the Orders of Chivalry coming in. So certainly the members of the Order of the Garter, Lady Manningham, Margaret Salisbury, and Baroness Amos. For them also 3 members of the Order of the Thistle. As a reminder that this is in fact a state funeral.
Around 1097, and during Islam's history, it's been all kinds of things. It's been a courthouse,
Behind them, we saw the procession of the faiths, the leaders of the faiths across the United Kingdom, which all of whom had been welcomed so warmly by the new King on Saturday evening. Across the United Kingdom, the Cardinal Archbishop of Westminster, Archbishop of Westminster, Vincent Nichols. A little earlier, we saw the Pope's representative, Archbishop Paul Gallagher, in attendance representing Westminster. A little earlier, we saw the Pope's representative, Archbishop Paul Gallagher, in attendance representing
the Army and Navy and Air Force and the Royal Marines band there. Also there to accompany the tri-service. The bearer party, the party that will be in charge of transferring the coffin from the catafalque to the bearer party,
First Ministers,
well, that's provided appropriately by the Queen's Company, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards,
Prime Ministers,
and they will soon be in place in Westminster Hall.
members of the Royal
That's the
Family.
Guard of Honour that we're seeing there, but the bearer party is soon to be
cortege to move
and of course,
from
very
Westminster
appropriate
Hall,
that
a short
when we
distance
see
to
the
Westminster Abbey.
Queen's Company, we just think about the fact that it's a strong bond of the is underlying Queen's Company, because of course the company commander, the Queen's Company, was Her Majesty the Queen. So it's a special day for the regiment, no question about that, and an even more special day for the Queen. So it's a special day for the regiment, no question about that, and an even more special day for the Queen. So, now, if you'd like more information about the procession order, you can find a specially made graphic on the BBC News Online. If you'd like part of the website, which
might be
details
a
the
moment to look ahead to the service
and those
itself
taking part. There it
and
is,
some of the
BBC
music
Sounds
that we will
Live
hear
has
at
news
the
to
prayers,
main
the
procession.
readings, might be a moment
And just for me to say this to you,
service itself.
to all of you
And the music is very close to the late Queen's heart, music that we would have heard at her wedding, at her coronation.
are very solemn events. We're talking about a state funeral.
We're certainly going to be hearing some very lovely hymns.
The reason we're giving you all of that
When we get
information
down to
online,
St George's Chapel,
especially to do with individuals,
one of the pieces is arranged by Sir William Harris, who actually taught the Queen, Princess Margaret, how to play the piano during the time when they were at Windsor Castle playing the war.
if people want to
So
see
that's a nice touch. Used
individuals'
to do
names who are
madrigals
taking
with them
part,
as the
well then it's
afternoon.
available for you online.
And two pieces of music have been specially commissioned
on
for
BBC
the
One here.
funeral
We are
service.
doing so
Judith
with minimal
Weir and Sir
commentary
James
because we feel that is
were
the
commissioned
most
especially
respectful way
for this
of covering
morning
what is
too.
a state funeral today. So that's the plan, and I hope that that message is one that you are receiving positively. And with that in
Anna,
mind,
can I
let me
just bring
introduce
you
my
in
next
here
guest, because Paddy Harvison is the
seen
former
world
Communications
leaders arrive in this
Secretary
church.
to, well, King and Queen
People
Consort
may
now.
see very
and
familiar
indeed
old
Prince of
political
Wales and
faces as they look around
now.
the congregation in the Abbey, of course, Privy Councillors.
My pleasure.
It's nice to have you with us.
So as we watch Mark Drakeford, First Minister of Wales, his wife
A
arriving,
lot, personally. I mean, having worked for the King and the Queen Consort
it's a sort of
for 10 years,
reminder of the very different aspects of the
all of this
constitutional
play
role.
out. We actually, as part of this team,
Yeah,
were
it
the
is,
first
and
to work
I
on
mean,
the
it's worth
accession on
reflecting,
this
as I was
10
over the
days.
last
Back in sort of
few days,
2005-6, we dusted off
the role of the ceremonial in our modern
so
monarchy.
beautifully, so elegantly, so in such
Walter
dignified
Badger,
manner.
as a
And then the King
constitutional
himself,
observer, and he
honestly, I
wrote,
can't say
150
how
years
it
ago, and he
sounds.
was trying
It's
to
been
understand sort of magic that the
And I
monarchy
particularly love
still
his
maintains,
message
and he
today,
saw it
thank
as
you
a
to people, because
a necessary weaving together of the ceremonial, the emotional and the familial. And I think we're going to see that in evidence today. And of course, yes, the great and the good are arriving. We just saw
big
Nicola
moment maybe
Sturgeon
was when he
arriving
made
there.
that first televised
But at the
address.
heart of it, there is
just after
this
the
service of
Queen's
faith, a demonstration of
his
family,
eloquence,
and it's quite deliberate.
his
I think we're going to
readiness
see the
really
young
to show
Prince and
how
Princess
moved he
George
was.
and Charlotte
I
in
think affected lots
procession
of people,
too.
and they were
This is the Chinese Vice
genuinely
President we were talking
impressed
earlier. I
with that,
mentioned
and they
that
were impressed
regimes
with the way
we
in which he
don't frankly like are
was
also
authentic and
represented
honest with
here.
people.
We're witnessing
Yeah,
the Chinese Vice President walking in, somewhat controversial for MPs,
a wonderful combination of the
but a
personal and
reminder, as I said,
constitutional.
of that critical
He
role
talked
that the
as the
Queen
son of
played.
And all through her
mother,
life,
and
she of
also
course
as the-
met heads of
now the
state,
father
whether
of the
it be
nation, but also
Mugabe and
very specifically
Ceausescu,
talked about what
and indeed
how
in
he
more
would take on the role of
recent
king,
times,
how he would strive to
she
live
met
up to his
Putin,
mother's example.
first time
He also
monarchy had
appointed
met
his eldest son as
a
Prince of
Russian leader
Wales, so
for
it was
150
full
years.
of
I mean, she,
sort of
the Queen was able to go to places, meet
importance,
people
but
that
also
others would
very
have found
personal, and I think
distasteful.
all
And I
week
think
we've seen that.
for her, in many ways, it was
We
about
can see Mark Drake,
reconciliation,
Wales,
it's
other
about
political leaders
representing
through the
truth.
Abbey there, and just underlining
And
again,
she
Paddy, at
was
this point,
this
First
great
Minister of Scotland, Nicola
diplomat,
Sturgeon,
and as
also
heads of state from around the world gather, they're there, of course,
This
out
is
of
a
duty,
state
but they're there
funeral
also out of
today.
devotion, a sense of what they learned from her and what she represented to them, I think, as well.
Wasn't that phenomenally difficult to create? You know, we essentially have a values-based monarchy. They represent public virtue. At the same time, they're having this slightly counterintuitive role, meeting world leaders we don't like, to state dinners and so on. It's a really complex thing to pull off, is it not?
Incredible. I mean,
There was a lovely
this
touch there
small,
where
diminutive
the
figure, and of
President
course,
of
you
the
know,
States
through her
was
reign, she was
waiting
20-something
for the
young woman
heroes to go
coming
ahead
to the
of him.
throne
I
in the
thought that said a lot.
1950s in a world
But
which
it's
was
been great to see so many
dominated
come
by
to London
men.
and
She
pay their
really
respects
was,
to the
you
Queen,
know,
and of course to
a
the
sort of
King and
woman
his
in
wife, the Queen
an
Consort.
entirely
So,
dominant
a truly
male
global event.
world, and
When people
held
assess
sway over decades on the
legacy of
world
this
stage. I mean, we saw there Biden, her first
momentous reign,
president
70
was
years.
Truman,
And
you know,
it'll take a
Truman,
long time
Stalin,
to assess
Churchill.
it
These were
properly,
her first
because
heads of state, and of
far
course
too early still
Theresa
to
May,
take a
one of
considered view
her prime
of it.
ministers, one of 15, of course.
Will it be
Preceded
dominated
there
by
by
thoughts
Boris
of
Johnson
the
and
Commonwealth
Harry
and
Johnson?
the fact that we live in a far
Let's
more
take
diverse
in some of
Britain
these
than we
images
used
as
to, and the
the
fact that the Queen has
former
presided
prime ministers
over
of the late
unprecedented
Queen's
change in
reign
society.
begin to arrive.
Or will it be dominated by thoughts about how the family try to modernise itself? I mean, where do you think the focus will be?
I think it's that sort of magical combination, really, of how the monarchy must represent continuity through, in this case, 70 years, and the Queen must embody that continuity and yet also adapt. And I think the royal family's been very good over the years at very subtly changing, but it's never been at the forefront of change, but always at the right moment, adapting to it. And I think the new king, in a way, personifies that. You know, he took on many great issues as Prince of Wales. He was ahead of his time. He kept, in a way, the monarchy relevant as Prince of Wales, and I know his son William will be doing the same.
Well, the king did release a statement within the past 12 hours or something, thanked people for their support, and there was a note of real sincerity in the thanks. Almost as if he'd been slightly taken aback by the extent of people's support and sympathy. Do you think that's fair?
Their good personal relations, but united today in their respect for the Queen.
Around the four nations and meeting and greeting people, you could see how
two Labour Prime Ministers, obviously.
And I think it's just been an enormous source of strength for him and the family.
Tony Blair and Gordon Brown.
Paddy, thank you so much. Thanks for joining
and
us.
Sarah coming in to join them with John Major.
There we can see the Prime Minister until recently, Boris Johnson arriving, his wife, and the former Prime Minister
worth
again
noting,
behind
perhaps with
Mr.
Hugo,
Johnson,
that Tony Blair recently enrolled as a Knight of the Garter.
He was appointed by Knight of the Garter by the Queen in January, and he was installed in June.
David Cameron
and John Major, of course, also the Knight of the Garter. They have stalls in St George's Chapel.
Greeted by the Dean and others. Let's join Fergal again.
Well, as we watch the arrival of former Prime Ministers, we should tell you that the leaders of the nations of the United Kingdom have also begun to arrive. The First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, who
just behind
last week, at a special sitting of the Scottish Parliament, said that for more than 70 years, Queen Elizabeth has been the great constant.
Maybe worth noting at this point that some of the very best stories of the past 10 days about the Queen have come from her former Prime Ministers,
values we hold
recalling her warmth, particularly recalling their humour and how it helped them
leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer.
And of course they would see the Queen every Tuesday afternoon generally for these audiences, which of course never reported. So, you know, the lineup of people there would have had a very distinctive relationship
Michelle
with the Queen, which
Sinn Féin, now
they can never really share apart from those anecdotes like
Ireland,
the cheese that they've shared
almost directly behind
to give a glimpse, I think, of the warmth of the Queen, her sense of humour. But it's hard to capture, I imagine, the sort of wisdom, the kind of counsel that she could give them.
Now, Tony Blair and his wife
a monarch who had seen so much, who had lived